make sure that, you think this is conservative enough for me? I mean, the color and all of that. Oh, okay. All right. What? Three, two, one. Hello. Are you living in distortion? Are you living in a life that you sometimes feel like you can't control? I'm Ruby Frank, and I'm here to be your life coach. When it comes to parenting, I know all about it. I've raised several kids, and it just gets under your skin sometimes the way the children behave. But if you're living in distortion, Ruby Frank, and that's who I be, is here to help you through it all. I have a simple program that I'm going to be establishing now. As a life coach here in Utah, I don't need credentials. I don't need a license. All I need is someone who needs help, and I need to convince them that I can give them this help. So, with the program in mind, I want to give you just a little bit of a background about me. And I'm sure many of y'all know who I am. I was a very famous vlogger, and I used to exploit my kids online so that I could get subscriptions and, money. But after a while, with all those subscriptions and all those people watching me, a few of them came on there that didn't agree with my parenting style. And so, to protect myself and finally to put my children in a different light, because all of that time I really wasn't thinking about them, I decided I would let loose on that and go with my good friend Jody Hillebrandt to start a new program. And I was going to have a new title and everything. But that didn't work out. And now that I have accepted a plea deal and I'm back out here in society again, I want you to know that I'm bigger and brighter than ever. I'm just the life coach that all of you need. Let me explain. How does one begin to understand the blame game, right? Does anybody know of the blame game? Should distortion be involved in all of that? Well, my new program only includes 4 simple steps. You ready? Here it goes. First, you got to get arrested. You got to be put in a jail cell. And you need to be charged with multiple counts of felony child abuse. Now, that's imperative. That's got to be the foundation. During that time, once you enter into the jail cell, you have to start really feeling what it's like to put in your mouth all of the jail food that you're getting and how nasty and disgusting it is. You also have to really, really kind of let yourself understand that you don't have any freedom in that 6x8 cell. And the cell's not a really good place to be, especially like, for instance, I had a great big beautiful house and everything, and here I am in a 6x8 jail cell. The first step, get arrested, start thinking of the jail food and how nasty it is. Think about the freedom that you're losing. And then, to top it all off in the first step, you have to be cognizant of all the other people in the jail system and how ultimately someone like me, I don't want to be around people like that, right? So that's step 1. That's such a crucial step because it breaks you down into the reality that everything's going wrong, right? Step 2, realize that your co-conspirator in child abuse is not around you. And in fact, when I first got put in jail, the only thing I cared about was, where's Jody? Where's Jody? So make sure when you go into a co-conspirator type thing that you stay close to that person that helped you abuse your children. Okay, that's step 2. Step 3, you're gonna have to spend a few months. You're going to have to spend a few months knowing what you got busted doing. Oh, yeah, I mean, I went through those levels, stages of denial and stuff, but deep down I knew that Jody and I both were abusing the children. And, somehow, some way, when I first got into jail, and I was so focused on Jody that I didn't want to stop and think about the seriousness of what I had done. Find out now. You got to find out in this third step whether or not your spouse that you kicked to the curb for no reason at all, other than to say, I wanted to be with Jody, make sure they're filing for divorce. If they're filing for divorce, then you realize that it's more at stake than just, am I going to get out of this trouble? It's about, finances and all those other things. And mostly, the custody of the kids, because see, if I have custody of the kids, then my soon-to-be ex would have to pay me child support. And finally, step 4. Last but not least, release a statement that has been crafted by a very good defense attorney saying that you have found your moral compass and agree to throw your co-conspirator under the bus to save yourself. You got to take all those things into consideration. The jail food, the freedom, the acknowledgement deep inside that, I did what I did, but somehow I got to get out of it. And folks, in step 4, to totally complete this program, that it's to play the blame game. To play the blame game when I got busted for child abuse, 6 counts of it, class 2 felonies. I got to play the victim. I've got to play the victim. If you look at all of the videos I made with Connections, or even before, some of y'all, I'm sure, had watched 8 Passengers. Did I look like a victim to anybody? Oh, I was so in control. And I also wanted to teach other parents how to be a parent. Because, see, I'm an authority on that. Give me a break. Give me a break. Folks, I got up this morning. Good evening, by the way. I got up this morning and I saw it. Y'all know, I guess it was a few days ago. I said, they're requesting these conference hearings to see about plea deals. And we knew they were coming. Does anyone think that Jody was going to throw Ruby under the bus with all of the evidence on that? It's defense strategy. People think defense strategy is in a courtroom during a trial. No, it goes for any plea agreement. Defense attorneys are not going to just, this defense attorney in this case, he's doing his job. And he released a statement that any judge or outside person would be like scratching their chin about. They wonder, is Ruby a victim? Blaming the other. How many times have all of us, seen the blame game played out? Right as we speak, we've got John Pryor saying that Lori was basically head of it all and that Chad followed along with his little gherkin, and Chad is trying to throw Lori under the bus. But then I got to thinking, well, when we look at Lori's trial and we listen to her statement at the end of her sentencing, did she throw anybody under the bus? In my view, she threw her own victims under the bus. She wanted, and it's bared out in the evidence, Lori blamed the victims. She didn't blame Chad. She blamed her own children, talking about how Tylee was always having these medical problems and all of that. And even though she didn't come right out and say, I blame Tylee, I blame JJ, you could just tell. What does she think standing up in a courtroom and saying, oh, JJ he was a big guy and he's so happy and they're so busy and they got these tasks and all this stuff. Does that is that a blame to say, here, I'm saying these nice things about the children I murdered, and don't look at me? Or perhaps it's about her saying that he who is without sin casts the first stone. So what does that say to me? I don't know what it says to you. It's, hey, all of you, unless you can say that you don't sin at all, you have no right to judge me. Well, by God, man's law judged the hussy. She's spending life in prison, and I'll tell you what, Arizona's going to do the same. You want to screw around and do wrong in man's law? She don't know what she's got coming when it comes to God's law, does she? Obviously. Or how about Corey Richens? Corey Richens wants to blame her murdered husband. He's the reason that he's dead. He was a drug addict. She sent out this letter saying that, tell my brother to say this and this and this about Eric. She wants to blame her own victim. There you go. Then how about Timothy Ferritter, the father that put his son in a box, basically, down in Florida? Well, through the whole trial, he's trying to say it's his son whose bad behavior was the reason he did the child abuse. Not even really acknowledging that because he did what he did, that exacerbated the behavioral issues and would have done that for any child. So we got Timothy Ferritter blaming his own child. Then, of course, we got the Tim Ballard crap, where Tim Ballard wants to initially, because he thinks he's a lowercase g, he wants to say it's a global cabal trying to keep him from helping sex-trafficked children. And then he goes a step further to say that the victims are all lying. He's attacking the victims. How about Erin Patterson of Australia, the one that poisoned her in-laws and basically murder? She's up for murder of 3 out of the 4, and attempted murder on the 4th one that but miraculously survived off those death cap mushrooms. She wants to blame an Asian market selling those to her, but she can't remember which Asian market it was. I'll tell you what. Was she thinking about the damn Asian market when she threw the food dehydrator in the trash at the dump? And then came back and said, well, I was at the hospital and my soon-to-be ex there, he said, you poisoned them and it just scared me, and so I went and took the food dehydrator. You would have thought that woman would have brought the food dehydrator to the police and said, this is crazy. I can't believe I did this. Here's the food dehydrator. Recently, how about old Charlie Adelson, huh? Did Charlie Adelson take responsibility for his actions? No, in his sentencing, he got up and the only thing he said is, I'm innocent, when everybody knows damn well he hired those hitmen, and by the way, he blamed them. Yes, they were involved in the conspiracy, but it would have never happened had it not been for Charlie Adelson and his mother, Donna. And we're going to find out. You can be sure of it. Donna's going to come out with her defense, and it's going to be blaming somebody else. It happens this way every time. All these criminals and many more will not accept the consequences of their criminality. They just won't do it. And the sad reality of it all is they want the justice system. These criminals, these murderers, they want the justice system to work for them. Can you believe that? And it often does. I mean, let's get real, y'all. What did Melanie Gibb, Zulema, David Warwick, these people got sweetheart deals to testify against what? The big fish? What about the little fish? What about everybody that wants to do this crazy shit? Huh? So, tonight, I don't know where this is going, but I am riled up. Because, folks, there have been times in my life, I look at you, that I didn't want to face the consequences. And I'm sure some of y'all, if you got truthful with yourself, you didn't want to as well. Mostly, I think for the most part, it's usually during youth. You know, we try to lie our way out of it or try to blame somebody else. I can think of times that happened for me. So I'm not sitting here tonight being a hypocrite. I've done it. I've been there. But I'll tell you what. These people that do this crazy stuff out here, taking lives and hurting people, destroying families, they want the justice system to work for them. And by Monday, Ruby Frankie is going to get her plea deal. Now, some would say, KJ, Jody, you know, my opinion, this may be somebody's opinion. There are people on both sides. Jody was the mastermind of it. Jody was the twisted one. And Ruby is saying that, you know, she was just trying to improve herself. Folks, this woman was sitting on the couch with Jody talking about she's a life freaking coach. If she ain't got improvement already, then what the hell is she trying to tell everybody else? That she can help them improve. A Utah influencer and mommy blogger arrested on child abuse charges is to enter a plea deal on Monday and blamed her business partner for making her lose her moral compass. Oh my God. I'll wait. Ruby Frankie, a 41-year-old mother of 6, at one point enjoyed YouTube stardoms, racking up 1 billion views on their parenting channel, 8 Passengers, documenting family life, homeschooling, and tough parenting style. But in August, her world came crashing down, and she was arrested after police found her 12-year-old son, Russell, severely emaciated, injured, and bound with duct tape. It later emerged that Frankie's husband, Kevin, had left the marital home in Springville, Utah, a year earlier amid differences in parenting style. Frankie set up a new YouTube wellness and coaching channel with Hillebrand. Her lawyers have not revealed the details of Frankie's plea deal, but blamed Hillebrand for corrupting her. Quote, Ruby Frankie is a devoted mother and is also a woman committed to constant improvement, her lawyer said in a statement issued on Friday. Initially, Miss Frankie believed that Jody Hillebrand had the insight to offer a path to continual improvement. Miss Hillebrand took advantage of this quest and twisted it into something heinous. Initially. So how long? I'll tell you how long it was before Ruby realized whatever she's coming out with is because she knows her ass has been sitting in a jail cell for several months and she's in serious, serious trouble. The lawyers claim that Hillebrand worked to control Frankie, depicting her as a Machiavellian force set on dominating Frankie. Now, let's just stop for a second, y'all. Frankie was so swayed by Jody that it doesn't match up with the fact that Frankie, the wife of her husband there, was able to get him out of the picture. Frankie's lawyers claim that Hillebrand's isolating of Frankie left her with a distorted sense of morality. They claim that the 3 months in jail have given her perspective and made her realize her mistakes. Wouldn't it have been nice? I'm not here to armchair quarterback, but wouldn't it have been nice if she could have realized her mistakes before they happened? Is the mistakes of going off with Jody on Jody's boat, all these cute pictures of Jody and Ruby laughing and smiling while DCS is being called because the children are being left at home. That wasn't nothing. It was something. During Ruby Frankie's incarceration in Washington County Jail over the past few months, she has actively engaged in introspection that has allowed her to reset her moral compass and understand the full weight of her actions. Y'all, I don't know. I feel like I want to go off the deep end on this. I'm going to skip over all that because all it's going to do is piss me off. So I will just say this. I'll read a couple of comments and then I'll go back into some more information. CSI Piper says personal accountability seems to be a thing of the past. Kathy Benadaro says she's a damn liar. Self-improvement while abusing her kids and having a podcast on how to parent your kids. Don't forget the condition that boy was in when he escaped to a neighbor's house. Even the neighbor was crying. The prosecutor must be a woke joke to even consider a plea deal. Kim Nix says, how can anyone harm a child? And it's usually the parent that kill and abuse them. I can't even comprehend that. I knew she would turn. Beverly P. says, a good mother could never be influenced by anyone to abuse her children, period. I call it BS. Truckloads of it. Crystal, a.k.a. Beaver Gaming Sub, says she was horrible before Jody. And Vix Tex wraps it up by saying, no surprise here that Ruby is taking a plea deal. So, let's get to what we expect on Monday. I'm not exactly sure what they're going to sentence her to, whether she'll get more jail time, what is going to happen and all that. But we'll just talk about it and y'all can tell me what you think. Saltino Wachino says the judge can sentence her any way they want when she pleads guilty. I've watched judges sentence harshly when a plea deal has not been reached, but defendant doesn't accept full responsibility. NF Mom says, I call BS on all that crap spewing out of her lawyer's mouth. Well, here it is, y'all. Here is her lawyer's statement on behalf of Ruby Franke. Ruby Franke is a devoted mother and is also a woman committed to constant improvement. Initially, Miss Franke believed that Jody Hillebrand had the insight to offer a path to continual improvement. Miss Hillebrand took advantage of this quest and twisted it into something heinous. Over an extended period, Miss Hillebrand systematically isolated Ruby Franke from her extended family, older children, and her husband, Kevin Franke. This prolonged isolation resulted in Miss Franke being subjected to a distorted sense of morality shaped by Miss Hillebrand's influence. That word, distorted, isn't that what they were teaching everyone? Don't live in distortion. And here he is saying Jody was helping to make everything so distorted for Ruby. Give me a break. During Ruby Franke's incarceration in Washington County Jail over the past few months, she has actively engaged in introspection that has allowed her to reset her moral compass and understand the full weight of her actions. Miss Franke is committed to taking responsibility for the part, y'all, not parts, not plural, part, just a part that she played in the events leading up to her incarceration, demonstrating a sincere dedication to personal growth and rehabilitation. She has actively begun the process by reaching out to members of her family, and I cannot believe that they have not put something on this woman to keep her from doing that. We are talking felony too, y'all. I'm fixing to read you Utah code on that. She's allowed to talk to her children. It's pathetic and it's wrong. Through heartfelt apologies, she seeks to mend relationships and contribute positively to the healing journey of her family. And some have said that her husband just filed that divorce because he wanted to get custody of the kids, that he doesn't really want to divorce Ruby. I don't know that. I don't know if this family's going to split apart forever or not. Y'all know me. I'm all for families getting help. But I'm going to tell you what, it takes someone confessing with their mouth and not trying to blame everybody else or someone else for things that they did themselves. Windward Law recognizes the profound love that Miss Franke holds for her children, and we are genuinely saddened that she found herself on this challenging path under the influence of Miss Hildebrandt. It is our firm belief that Miss Frankie is a devoted mother who, unfortunately, was led astray. And here you go, y'all. I don't know any other states, but in terms of Utah, if she gets this plea deal and people want to believe that all she did because of the abuse and everything was because she was led astray, well, I'll tell you what, that's going to be a good excuse for a lot of people in Utah from here on out. Have that precedent. Oh, Ruby Frankie, she was led astray, so forget about the child abuse. Folks, it cannot float. It don't matter. It don't matter if a million people come out of the woodwork to say that Jody Hillebrand was deceptive and she, got a hold of people's mental and emotional feelings and all that stuff. It does not matter. First of all, Ruby's husband should have seen the forest through the damn trees. But there were other people around that saw that things were not going well. And the fact that those children, people had called DCS because the children were being left alone, if they could have just got to them sooner, maybe little Russell would have never had to go through any of that. How Ruby Frankie can come out in this statement like this through her attorney, and the fact that we're not going to really know because she's accepting this plea deal now, her involvement of knowing Russell had that duct tape on him, we don't know. Ruby could have herself. They have her charged with this stuff. She was there at Jody's house. Her involvement in any of this, it's sad, it's pathetic, and again, people want to do the crime and they want to blame someone else for what they know deep in their heart shouldn't have been happening. It doesn't take someone with just a little bit of brain cells to see when a child is emaciated and has duct tape on them and they're being treated that way. That is common sense. But perhaps Ruby could say, well, I was never around the kids because I was all gone all the time. They were at Jody's house. I never saw the kids, so, I didn't know what was going on. Well, woman, you're the mother of them damn children. And you should have known where they were and what they look like every damn day of their life. She is sincere in her commitment to securing the best possible future for her family, and we remain hopeful that with the right support and understanding, she can navigate a path of healing and growth. It's been several months since Frankie and Hildebrandt were arrested. Both were charged with 6 counts of aggravated child abuse, second-degree felonies that could mean 1 to 15 years in prison for each charge. And let's get to that, because Monday we're going to find out what Ruby Frankie's going to get. And I'm just going to venture to say that perhaps she has spent a few months in jail. They're probably going to let her out. They're probably going to let her out. You know why I think they're going to let her out? Because they want to use her to go after what? The big fish. Well, I'll tell you what. There ain't no big fish and little fish in my mind when it comes to abusing children. That was the mother. We all know what that's all about. Lori was the mother of her children, and look what happened to them. And no, nobody died in this. But if people wouldn't have stepped up, if Russell wouldn't have gone out that window, who's to say how it would have ended up? When would the children's father come back around and wonder where his children were? And he's got the excuse, well, I'm under, we're under therapy with Jody, and she says I got to stay away. I guarantee you, the father of those children knew in his heart of hearts that this was not the way to go. And he could have stood up like a man and said, Ruby, I know our therapist is saying we need to be split up, but by God, Ruby, we've got to stay together as a family. The way that Utah's child abuse laws have been interpreted can be confusing. It is possible to commit child abuse without actually inflicting any real injury. And in this case, there was real injury. It is possible to commit child abuse without intending to inflict any injury. A person may also be charged with child abuse in cases where the defendant causes or permits another person to inflict physical injury on a child. Now let's stop there. Does anyone believe that Jody Hillebrand is not going to come out here and say, Ruby wanted me to do this? Because nobody, I don't believe that Jody's going to come out and say, well, I put the duct tape on and the honey and the cayenne pepper and stuff, and Ruby knew nothing about it. That'd make it worse on Jody. So this whole idea that Ruby didn't know that Jody was doing this, and I would venture to say that Ruby perhaps took part in some of the abuse. I mean, we're talking 6 counts here, y'all. Child abuse charges can be filed as either misdemeanor or felony charges, depending on the severity of any injuries inflicted, as well as on the intent or mental state of the defendant. Now, could the state of Utah's prosecuting team there, could they be saying to themselves, now that they're going to entertain this plea deal on Monday, that it really does come down to intent, and that Ruby's going to come out here and say, I never intended for any of them to get hurt. I thought this was helping them. Jody was the professional. A second-degree felony, which is, she's got 6 of them on her, y'all, of child abuse carries a maximum sentence of up to 15 years in prison and a $19,000 fine, including a surcharge. A second-degree felony can be filed in cases where serious physical injury has been knowingly or intentionally inflicted on the child. Second-degree felony charges may be filed even if the injury is not intentionally or knowingly inflicted, but instead occurs as the result of child abandonment. And there's enough of those damn reports from these neighbors and stuff that Ruby was never around. She's too busy doing her stupid connections class and taking pictures with Jody like they're getting it on, just smiling and happy. Although rarely filed, a second-degree felony may also be charged if, as a result of committing child abandonment, the defendant receives any benefit, either directly or indirectly. Now, did Ruby get any benefit directly or indirectly? Was she getting money from Jody? Was she getting a salary there for being a freaking backwards-ass life coach where you don't need a license or nothing? There's got to be something there. I mean, what? Ruby's just going to let Jody do whatever she wants with her kids so that Ruby doesn't have to take care of them? Is that a benefit? She don't have to take care of their daily needs like she did for so long on 8 Passengers. Every little damn thing those children did, she put it online. The most common basis for a second-degree charge of child abuse in Utah is serious injury to a child. Serious injury is defined for the purposes of Utah's child abuse statute, Utah Code 76-5-109, as any physical injury or a combination of injuries that seriously impairs the child's health, causes serious emotional harm to the child, involves a substantial risk of death, or involves physical torture. Well, I wonder how Russell's doing. I prayed for those children. I pray for all the children that have to go through these things, y'all. Dee Dee Sunshine says, Ruby was punishing her son for touching his personal stuff. That's disturbing. Tina Reddington says she was abusing her children before she got with Jody. She recorded it. And that's a lot of people's view, Tina. And I've heard a lot of that from a lot of you. I haven't never watched any of that. I've just read the comments because it was all taken off of YouTube. I'm one of these ones, there are certain things that are subjective. Some people might think are cruel or abuse or something, and others things, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I try really hard not to, because I am a mother, to say this is how I mother, and because she's not mothering the way I mother and she's a bad mother, I can't do that. Because ultimately, y'all, the way I mothered my 3 sons, I made mistakes and made a lot of mistakes, really. And people could have looked at me if I'd have put my children's life online and could have said, you're doing it wrong. I mean, yeah, there's books out here how to mother and all that, but ultimately, you either got it or you don't. You do the best you can. Try to be as positive as you can. And I think Ruby she got to this place in her life where her kids were growing up. The 4 that were left in the home, she wasn't happy in her marriage. Jody gave her this thrill, whatever that may be. It helped her to move from 8 passengers onto this Connections. Ruby wanted to be taken seriously. And what's interesting about it all is, how does it take 3 months in jail for her to finally get a moral compass? How long was she not having a moral compass? Well, I think maybe that's what you're indicating, Tina, or others, that she had not been parenting properly, like common sense parenting. Things, like denying food or embarrassing your children or the things that she was accused of doing in her 8 passengers. The bottom line is that, every time, y'all, every time these people get busted, they always blame someone else. And this is all about a plea deal. The plea deal that her attorney says she wants to accept responsibility of her part. Well, how's that going to play out in a public setting? Is she going to go in there and say, yes, I did this, this, this? Y'all know it's not going to happen. We're never going to know what her part is. Except, of course, if Jody Hillebrand is taken to trial. And then, of course, you're only going to hear Jody Hillebrand's side of it all. The state, if they give Ruby this plea deal, they're not going to go in there with a trial with Jody saying Ruby was even Steven with Jody. They're not going to do that. They're going to make it out to be like this was all Jody Hillebrand. Jody Hillebrand led this woman astray, and yet this woman, for the longest time, was trying to tell others that this is how you parent your kids. And not only that, when that didn't work out and people was like rubbing up against that, saying, you know what, you do your thing, I'll do mine. I don't see this as something good that you're doing for your children. You're putting it out here. So if you're going to put it out here, I can criticize it, says Minnie. She goes from that to wanting to sit down on a sofa and start talking about this pathway to have this truthful family and raise your children in a truthful way without distortion. Well, I'll tell you one thing right now. This is my view. The only truth that needs to be in any of it is to teach a child about the Lord Jesus Christ, Almighty God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. And for people that don't have a faith in that, that's fine. Everyone deserves to have a belief system however they want to do it. But I've never heard it. I never heard it, and I printed out all kinds of those damn connection classes. Not once are they giving God any damn glory at all. You cannot put confidence in man, and that's exactly what Jody Hillebrand was asking everyone else to do. And that's what Ruby Frank did. She wanted to. She made the choice to put her faith in Jody Hillebrand. And this is the result of that. There's nothing that says that Ruby and her husband and her kids could not have gotten into their faith more, to start really acknowledging what their God says about it all, to look and see that God does bring comfort and understanding. Tina Reddington says, well, Jody didn't put her back on track, that's for sure. Miss Frisco Wynn says, these people just want reinforcement from others when they commit these immoral acts. And the sad reality about that, Miss Frisco Wynn, and that's a good comment, is that this is going to reinforce people's perception, once again, about the justice system. And really, what is it set up to do? I mean, we all think justice system is set up to hold people responsible, to also bring justice to victims. And, time and time again, people end up getting these deals to testify about other people when they themselves need to go down? Who has made the decision that Ruby doesn't deserve a trial? The state of Utah's prosecuting team, that's who. And really, honestly, if it takes a little boy going out the window, he's got duct tape and wounds, and they've got his sealed testimony being a minor and all that, do they not have a strong enough case for Jody Hillebrand that they've got to use Ruby Franke at a possible trial for Jody Hillebrand? Well, I'll tell you this right now. Maybe, just maybe, we'll get a little insight into Ruby's part if Jody Hillebrand goes to trial. Maybe the state of Utah will say, the hell with your plea deals, Jody. We're going to take you to trial regardless, so you better just buck up and get ready for it. Because ultimately, y'all, the justice system has to be about deterrence as well. And how much of a deterrence is it that someone can commit 6 charges of felony 2 child abuse and be given a plea agreement? And I'm probably going to throw up on Monday when they let her walk out the courtroom. Some people say, well, KJ, those are serious. And you just talked about the penalties for that. Do y'all think that defense attorney ain't got a good deal for Ruby? He's already come out to say what Ruby can do in the prosecution of Jody Hillebrand. They've already laid out their little narrative that Ruby was so led astray. She was so led astray. When she's looking at her children in duct tape, and I believe she saw her children that way, and when I think about her knowing she was not the attentive mother she needed to be, leaving the children alone, doing all of that, she already, like some of y'all said, she already had this issue with her parenting. And Jody just kind of lit her fire, I guess. It is so sad if she gets off easy just because of a plea deal. It's shameful what these two did, and they should pay. And when I think of how many followers they were influencing, it's damn scary, says Sharon McCollister. Great comment. You know, y'all, I'm all for if people can do whatever the hell they want to do. That's their life. They can do whatever they want to do. But for this old country girl, I don't want anyone teaching me how to do shit. I got to learn it myself. And if I don't know something, I can educate myself on it without someone else out here telling me, hey, KJ, you got to do it this way. You got to do it that way. Ruby did know. She had to have known. If for nothing else, y'all, the stress and discomfort of her 4 remaining children that were in the home. Why are they staying at Jody's? Why isn't Ruby there with them? Why is it that Ruby can go and they got it documented that Russell was there with duct tape, and yes, he does say that Jody did it, but his mother was there shooting these stupid connections videos. Dee Dee Sunshine says, imagine her children pleading, help me. Carrie Richards says, all of these adults who are killing and harming these children, no one is getting by with anything. Our Father in heaven is taking notes, but no excuses allowed. Children are so precious to him. And yes, I know that's a reality check for OKJ. If you don't know by now that I have a deep belief system and faith, I understand that. But I'll tell you what, that does not keep me from being outraged. Because ultimately, y'all, the bottom line is whether it's the justice system or it's someone else out here trying to tell you to live your life, there is no better way to get good information but through God's holy word. And the bottom line is that mankind, they create this system of justice, the laws and all of this stuff, and I'll tell you what, it's broken as hell. This isn't about justice for victims anymore. It's about how the defense attorneys can strike these plea deals. And is she going to come out here and allocute for her part? No. All she's going to say is, yes, I'm pleading guilty. Of course she doesn't want to explain the details. And I'll tell you something else. When they let her out, you make no mistake, she'll go right back into this, I know how to live it, y'all. I know how to live life. Just follow me. And there are people out there that are stupid enough to go along with it. They'll be the first to subscribe to her new YouTube channel or whatever social media platform she gets back on. Because I'll tell you what, she ain't going away. And Jody Hillebrand, her ass is busted. And I hope they do bring her to trial. Liza Joe says, what's up with Ruby? Did she plea? She's going to plea on Monday, Liza Joe. And they made some kind of plea agreement. And we knew it was coming. But, I mean, I never for a second really thought that Jody would be the first one. Y'all ever notice that? It's always the one closest to the victims that gets the deal most of the time. It's the one that, I don't know. I mean, it's just weird because this whole thing, we've seen it over and over again. One of them decides to play good with the state. Just think about it like this. Did the state of Idaho have enough on Melanie Gibb, David Warwick, Zulema? They had enough. They made a deal with the devil, just as these other jurisdictions all over the United States and perhaps the world, depending on how their judicial system is set up. I guess really, ultimately what I'm trying to say is that, isn't it just like the human being to not want to face what they've done? They want to convince themselves that, you know, maybe through their attorney, maybe Ruby talked with her attorney several times and he laid it in her ear, hey, you need to really go this route. You need to throw Jody under the bus. You know, we've got to make it look like she just led you astray, that you were vulnerable and all of this stuff. Excellent defense attorney. Don't get me wrong. But it's not the truth, y'all. It's not the truth. When you take it in totality, her husband, Ruby's husband, the other children, the adult children, the way that all worked out, the bottom line is that Ruby did get into some crazy stuff with Jody, but she was already acting really strange before getting with Jody. Plea should include prison sentence, right? Well, Liza Joe, we don't know. I guess it's got to be a good enough deal so that Ruby can go up on the stand and betray her precious Jody. I mean, y'all, think about it. Does it take 3 months after initially going into the jail saying, I'm telling another jail inmate, where's Jody? I got to find Jody. I wish they'd let me around Jody. Oh, I know. That sounds like someone who's being led astray. Well, this woman talked a lot. She talked a lot before meeting Jody. She had a clear talk coming out of her mouth. It wasn't nothing, you know, like freaky or anything. A lot of people disagreed with the things she was doing before meeting Jody. But she was clear. She was coherent. She knew right from wrong. And what's interesting about it is she can go from that where you ain't going to get breakfast, or the school's calling and saying that my child didn't bring their lunch, and I'm not bringing them lunch, and things of those little things like that, to going into this, dovetailing into duct tape and honey and cayenne pepper, which, by the way, I'll repeat it. All you have to do is put in the Google search, cayenne pepper, honey, Joseph Smith. You'll be surprised. I believe with all I am that they were putting that on there so that those scars or wounds would heal up where no one knew that they had done all those things. That's what I believe. No one's going to tell me otherwise. Yes, Dog Mom. She's going to have a plea deal on Monday. But think about it like this, y'all. I know Utah, well, maybe Utah's not much different than Idaho. You know, if you know what I mean. But, you know, there's an opportunity. And we'll probably talk about it Monday. as many of y'all know, I've been kind of going through some other stuff, and I'm trying to get back on track, and I appreciate all y'all's thoughts and prayers. Please continue to pray for JoJo and her child, along with Eric Jasper and his daughter. Other people that have voiced things that are going on in their life, please continue to pray for them. If in fact you do pray, if not, just special loving thoughts will do. But Monday, I think we'll talk about this whole situation with Chad Daybell and the fact that the new scheduling order is out. And I'm going to lay it up against Lori's scheduling order. We all know, well, at least I know, that they're going to move her Arizona stuff down. I don't know if it's going to be 270 days, but they're going to move it. But just for sake of argument, lay her scheduling order over Chad's. And then look, when is the cutoff for Chad Daybell to get a plea agreement? Because John Breyer's made it quite clear that Chad would have never done this if it wouldn't have been for Lori. It's the blame game, y'all. It's always been the blame game. Just as that Judge Newman in the Alex Murdaugh trial, I've said this before, I got to say it again. He says to Alex Murdaugh in his sentencing, he says, after all these years of these people, being sentenced that I have to sentence, never once can any of them ever tell me what they were thinking before they pulled the trigger. They don't want to talk about those moments. And I guarantee your ass, Jody Hillebrand does not want to talk about when she was taking the tape and putting it around Russell's arms, denying him food, denying him water. The other children, I don't know what position they're in, but you think about the young lady that was kin to Jody Hillebrand. I forgot her name. Please forgive me. She's a young lady. She's come out to say how Jody treated her. And after all that time, nobody has got any red flags. Nobody is going to warn poor Ruby. I mean, her own husband's not going to step up and have a set of balls to hold on to his wife one way or the other. I mean, if anybody says that a marital therapist, that they've got to be away from their children and wife completely, I can understand if they need a little break or something. But to do that makes no sense whatsoever. And make no mistake, y'all, if Jody ever gets out, she ain't going to have a license to go back to. But guess what? Just as they've said in the Utah papers there and everything about they might revisit through the legislature trying to make it a law where if you're going to be a life coach, you've got to have certain certifications. It won't ever happen. And these people come online in this world inside of the world, and there's people out here that are desperately or really enthusiastically wanting to be better parents or better people. And then they have these people. They start off, they want to say good things, and this person gets roped in, and the next thing you know, this shit happens. Did that happen to Ruby Frankie? With her breadth of knowledge of being a parent? How much of this course that Jody created called distortions or whatever you want to call it, living in truth, how much of that had Ruby studied before she decided to help promote it? Because Jody Hillebrand wanted all those millions of subscribers. See, they were going to join forces. And if you really want to know the truth of the matter, all you have to do is look into the eyes of these two women in all these pictures of them together. They look just as happy as they could possibly be. Where are the children? Where are the children? Does echo, doesn't it? Doesn't it echo kind of like Idaho there? Where are the children? Where are the children? Rita Mae's Resale says, hopefully the plea includes termination of parental rights like Joanne Rossi. Well, I'll tell you, Rita Mae's Resale, the way that this attorney for Ruby Frankie is talking, she's already calling her, I don't know if maybe it's her adult kids she's calling. I would be shocked if she's able from jail to call those 4 children that are minors. and it's just my opinion, and I could be wrong, and I know sometimes it seems like I am so negative, y'all. But what's positive about any of this shit, right? But I just think Kevin Frankie is filed for divorce, and the way that Ruby's attorney is talking about, what was it? He said somewhere along the way on it, he says, in this case, the mother doesn't want to see the children testify. In a case like this where it looks like there's not a lot of criminal history, she's been in jail for a lot of time. What you're hoping for as a defense attorney is to avoid prison. And that is a unrelated defense attorney giving his opinion in this whole subject. But the reason I believe, and I'm not saying Ruby's some 100% cruel, evil, diabolical woman like the hussy, but of course she doesn't want her children testifying. Does she want Russell up there on the stand explaining that his mother knew? Does she want that? Of course, people are like, well, no, KJ. She just doesn't want to put her child to it. What? She put her child? She put her child through duct tape and emaciation. I mean, she'd have a problem with him going on the stand to tell the truth? Give me a break. Or the other children, the adult children. She doesn't want them to testify? And, of course, y'all, Ruby Frankie did not have a criminal history. She did have some kind of speeding ticket. They dismissed it. But it talks about in there, I'm not exactly where it was. Here it is. Ruby is aware that Kevin Frankie has filed for divorce. While she is devastated by this news, she acknowledges and understands his anger and reasoning. Despite the pain, she respects his decisions and remains hopeful that with time, she can contribute to rebuilding trust and fostering understanding within the family. Ruby has offered her full cooperation to help the children reunite with their father. So here we have it, y'all. Ruby Frankie is saying, basically to me, through her attorney, that she expects when she gets out, her and her husband and her kids are going to be a unit again. And that Ruby Frankie wants her husband to have custody of the kids. Well, she sure as hell didn't want him to have custody of them when she told him to go away and go live in a small apartment. So her and Jody there could go around acting like they were all that in a box of crackers. Oh, now she's seen the light. Oh, now she has a moral compass. And it took some time in jail, didn't it? What else could it have taken? Huh? Would Ruby, let's play this out. If Russell would have never went out the window, we don't know if it had gotten worse. Where was it going to lead? How was it going to end up? She lost her stinking mind, says Eric Jasper. And again, Eric Jasper, we are all thinking of your daughter and her influenza. Hopefully she'll be getting better real soon. Adrienne says, I think those two were more than friends. And folks, that's what I have hypothesized. I can't prove it. Is that controversial? I don't know. Is it? Would that have come out? Would it come out in Jody Hillebrand's trial if she has one? Guess we'll wait and see, won't we? Does anyone really believe that Jody Hillebrand, that the state of Utah is going to take her down the road? Because I can tell you right now, when you've got this woman who was on a referral list for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Utah has a really interesting way of doing things. You want to see it firsthand? Look at Attorney General Sean Reyes. Huh? How's he faring this day and time? You want to cover shit up? Go to Utah. Because it's all knee-deep in it every time. A speeding ticket to get home and replace the freaking duct tape on her son before he escapes, says Miss Frisco Wynn. I haven't really bared down, Miss Frisco Win, on the timing of that all, but if you've kind of gotten a good picture of that, perhaps. I mean, they couldn't get their friend Jody and Ruby's friend there fast enough to get the other kids. Maybe for the first time during all this time that her children were suffering and being left alone, maybe it's the very first time that old Ruby really is sunk in. Hey, wait a minute. I've been leaving my children alone for a long time, and Jody's got my son with duct tape and all this stuff on him, and they're not eating right, and my children are not together. Some are at the other house, and some are at Jody's, and I'm never home because I'm a freaking superstar on the freaking world inside of a world of social media, and I got to focus on connections because I don't want to live in distortion. I don't want to live without the truth. Well, what kind of truth was Ruby Frankie getting in parenting, seeing how Jody, if this is her defense, that Jody did it all, and I just went along with it? We're never going to know, y'all. Because this plea agreement's a coward's way out. That's a smart move. But again, when these criminals do this kind of shit, they play the justice system. Their defense attorneys, if they're any good, they're going to play. And you know what? I will be shocked if in this plea agreement, Ruby Frankie gets more jail time. I just guarantee your butt, y'all. I guarantee you that she's not going to get jail time because she's got to get ready, don't you know? She's got to become the threat to Jody Hillebrand in her trial. Could it be so bad that Jody Hillebrand says to herself while she's sitting in a jail cell, well, Ruby took a plea deal, and now it looks like she's gonna turn on me and throw me under the bus. Do you think that's gonna soften old Jody up to plead out? Who knows? I'd say Utah would want to sweep a lot of things under the table. What do y'all think? Miss Frisco win again. These two are peas in a pod. But we're not going to know that. We're not going to know that. The only thing we do know, Miss Frisco win, is that little Russell did say it was Jody that put the tape on him. The question is, did Ruby know about it? Because it just says nothing in that attorney letter like Ruby was misled. She had no idea that Jody did this to Russell. Or any general implication that Ruby did not know that Jody was doing these things. It doesn't say anything about that. But it does say that Ruby wants to take responsibility for her part. Well, I'll tell you what. I think it's more than just one part. But if you want to say it in a nutshell, her part is she was the mother of these children. And for her to do what she did, she abandoned them, basically. She abandoned them to whatever Jody wanted to do for them. Jody's, is it her niece? The one that, I can't remember her name. Y'all know who I'm talking about. People didn't step up for her either. Jody was going to, what was Jody going to do? Jody was going to duct tape the badness out of little Russell. How long is it going to take that little boy to wrap around his head through therapy that his mother wasn't there to protect him, or his mother wasn't there to protect him and she knew about it? Because make no mistake, y'all, those children do know whether Ruby saw Russell in those duct tape bindings. Jesse, that's right, Pam Keith. Thank you. I apologize. It's hard to keep up with all that. So, we're going to find out on Monday. We're going to talk Monday morning about Chad Daybell, which I'm trying to stay focused, but ultimately, I do apply other things because ultimately, y'all, Lori, she blamed the victims. She really did. I don't know of any other thing, or blamed everybody in the world, basically, because she said he was without sin, cast the first stone. This woman was a caster of stones all the damn time. You were dark. You were a zombie. You're a slug. You're an evil spirit. You're all these things, and she's throwing them damn stones at people, and yet she can't take a look at herself. And Chad Daybell, he was being led by his little gherkin with Lori when he's the one's coming up with the bullshit. So leave your comments. I wanted to get with y'all on that. Monday we'll get back together. I'm trying to get back to the swing of things. I love you all. You know I do. Leave those comments. If you can think of anything. Obviously, I want to leave it with this. Who did Melanie Gibb blame? Who did David Warwick blame? Who did Zulema blame? Who did Melanie Pulaski blame? Who did Ian blame? Huh? Who did Christopher Parrott blame? How about any of these crazy-ass people out here? Who did they blame for everything that happened to those children, to Tammy? Oh, let's not forget, Julie Rowe. She was taken up for Chad until, what? She blamed him. Give me a break. All these people, they run from their own consequences. They run from it, and then they expect, because they go on the stand to turn state witness and put these evil people away, that somehow that makes it all right. Well, I guarantee you this. Confessing with the mouth, right? None of these people have done it. None of them have. They might have told a little bit of truth here and there, but ultimately, they distanced themselves. Just as Ruby Frankie has distanced herself from Jody, you know they were joined at the hip. They were both complicit. Just the way it is. And we have the justice system in America to thank for that, because deals get made and people do not have to face trial because they need to face trial because of the deterrence issue, and that ultimately the penalties that these people get in plea agreements ain't shit compared to what they do. It is what it is. I love y'all. Y'all have a great weekend, and keep